We've reached the part of the podcast where we are talking some horse racing. Who better to come on than the host of the That's What G Said podcast, Gino. Gino, how are you doing today, my man?
Doing good, buddy. Been out at the track early in the morning for the last week or so, doing lots of work. It's been a very 2 weeks of Breeders' Cup horse racing focus for me. Normally, I'm talking a bunch of different sports, but lots of horse racing right now for the next few days.
What has kind of stood out at the track? Like, what is there anything like you've kind of noticed that something as us, like someone like me, I'm not really like a horse better. You know what I mean? I'll bet the bigger days. Is there something there that you've noticed that has stood out that someone like me should be aware of?
Well, for me, I have grown up 5 minutes away from Santa Anita, so I've been out there before. But I think one thing that I notice is like everyone will kind of look at a horse that out there in the mornings and they'll kind of have their different favorites. They'll see horses training, and it's not like when you're in a race, right? Because you're not necessarily winning or losing a race. When you watch these horses train, we can all sort of like watch players train, right? And you can kind of see the best versions of them. And that's what happens when you see these horses train in the morning. So for me, it's kind of interesting because they have all of the horses that are Breeders' Cup horses, they have like indexed saddle cloths. So their saddle cloth will be on, it'll say like number 751. So then 751 will tell you who they are. So it kind of makes it a little easy to follow along. And then after about 4 or 5 days, you start kind of noticing who some of these horses are, maybe without even having to notice their saddle cloth. You can sort of see the way that they move. And like for me, I don't pay attention as much to how horses are doing in the mornings, normally like day in, day out. But this last week, there were probably going to be 3 or 4 horses I end up using based on what they looked like in the morning to me that I might not have known. It's funny. It's kind of like a little like narrative-y with sports. In sports, you and I, a lot of times in football, we'll watch a game, we'll rewatch the game, we'll look at the box scores, DVOA, EPA, PFF, we'll compare all these different things for like the deep dive. But then there'll be like, oh, I heard this rumor about something like that. It's so funny. I think you get the narrative stuff a little bit sometimes in horse racing more than you might in other sports. And I'm looking forward to it. There's going to be 3 or 4 horses I mentioned to you that I thought looked really good in the mornings. And then what it did was it sort of made me want to look into those horses more. And then I was able to find out like, oh, look, this horse actually had like surgery recently, and there's a reason why his last race didn't go well. He had like a throat surgery. And so it was cool. There are horses now that are on my radar that probably wouldn't have been 2 weeks ago if I wasn't out there in the mornings.
What horse stood out the most?
A horse is named Shahryar. This is the one horse in the Breeders' Cup turf. So this is going to be race number 8 on Saturday. This horse is 15-1 on the morning line. I did not see the name of this horse the first time he came out, and I watched him for a little while, and I just made a note like, wow. And then the next day, again, I was wowed, and I looked down, and that was Shahryar. And so after the second day, I kind of kept really paying attention to him. He's not had a very good year this year. He's only raced twice. He's actually a horse from Japan. And he raced against the horse named Equinox, who is the number 1 ranked horse in the world right now. He lost twice to this horse. Following that, Shahryar actually was was ready to race one day, and it started pouring. And he just does not like those types of conditions. He actually couldn't breathe, and they had to do a surgery afterwards to help his breathing. Man, he looks like he is feeling really good out on the racetrack. And Erik, this will also answer another question because I know some of the things that you're going to ask me. I can predict the future. This would also answer a question that you were going to ask me for an Exacta bet, maybe one of my more strong Exacta plays on the day. I would play an Exacta with the 1 and the 9 here. I think Mostadov is a very, very logical favorite type horse who's going to run well. And I think if we put the price of the 1, Shahryar, along with the 9 and combine those two in an Exacta, that would be my strong Exacta play of the day. So the horse who I like the most, and in this situation, I would box it. I would play an Exacta box because Shahryar is going to be 15-1. So in this case, you want Shahryar to have an opportunity to win or finish second because it would really help your payout.
Now, when you go into a big race day like today, like Saturday, excuse me, what is kind of like your betting strategy? Like me, the novice better, and you're probably going to laugh, is I like pick fives. I like trying to hit a home run.
Not so do
That's
I. Yeah. And the
so
pick fives are like lower takeout wagers, which means you're getting taxed less. They're harder to hit, but you get taxed less. You get back more of your money when you win. I like pick fives. I like pick fours. I play into those as well. But honestly, for me, I have to play strong win wagers all throughout the days. Like, because the way that I bet, I'm betting lots of horses that are 5, 8, 10, sometimes 15 and 20 to 1. So those are the races where, as a gambler, I don't want to have a really strong opinion and not capitalize a little bit on it. How bad is it, Eric, when you go 4 out of 5 and you have a couple really nice prices and then you don't have anything from it? At least in this case, what I'll do is I'll play a pick 5, then I'll also take some of my bankroll and I'll make sure that the 3 or 4 horses I like the most throughout the day, maybe not all just in that pick 5, but throughout the day, I'll be sure to bet them to win. So that way, if 1 or 2 of those horses win, I'm at least going to get something back for it. I think a lot of times we all get a little greedy. Just like you're saying, I want to hit the pick 5. You want to hit the pick 5. We all want to hit the pick 5. But there's nothing wrong with betting on a horse that's 5 to 1 and going to get 5 times your money back, So I will be playing a lot of win wagers throughout the weekend.
Somebody said sometimes the best thing to do is just play the pick 1.
There you go.
Like,
right?
Just get the winner, get the bankroll.
Get the winner. Exactly.
Yeah, because looking at the way I bet, I usually don't bet wins. I usually
parlays, right? You wouldn't say to parlay a bunch of things to people necessarily, right? Like so, but like occasionally you would throw a money line parlay and maybe with some dogs, you know what I mean? Like something like that where you're like, hey, I'll throw a small. That's sort of I think the way you want to do things too. Maybe on these bigger days, bigger pools to shoot for, we take a swing at the pick 5s. But for me, bread and butter is like most days of the week, I'm playing 3 or 4 horses that day to win. And then there's probably like 2 days of the week that I'm like, okay, I'm going to play a pick 5 here, and a couple of those. But I get through based on the win wagers.
Okay. Now, speaking of win wagers, what is your favorite win wager for Saturday?
Can you say that 5 times fast, Eric? Win wager.
I'm struggling.
How about this? I'm going to turn all the way to the last Breeders' Cup race on Saturday. It's going to be race number 11 at Santa Anita. It's going to be the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And this is a race where there is not that much early speed for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. It's kind of weird. Normally, these are the really, really fastest horses. A lot of these horses are good. They're solid. They're quality. They just don't want to go that far, but they're not all that fast early. Speedboat Beach, he's very quick early, but the horse who actually is the most versatile, the horse who can sit close, who can put a little pressure on Speedboat Beach, but who can also pass horses is Dr. Shivel. That's the number 2. He's 5 to 1 on the morning line. He's one of my best bets. Probably if I were to just tell somebody to bet one horse on the whole weekend, it would be Dr. Shivel. If he's anything in the 4 to 1 or above range, I think that's very fair value. He's proven at Santa Anita. He likes it here. In the Breeders' Cup Sprint 2 years ago, he just missed. He was off for a little bit of time, but he showed up in September for a prep race to get him ready for this. He won that prep race, and now he's ready to take another step forward here. And he's got some speed, but he can also sit off a little bit. I like him quite a bit.
Now, one thing I need to ask you, and you gave this out when we talked the Kentucky Derby, and your number 1 fan, Coach Dan, did this, and he won big on it. Is he took a horse and then he played the Exacta, the horse with everyone underneath, and then flipped it with everyone over the horse. And obviously his horse finished second, big price won it. So he got a nice little Exacta. Is there would that be the scenario in this race? Race 11.
I might want to do that more with a horse like Shahryar, who's a little bit bigger of a price, because that knowing that the reason why I would do that with a bigger price is because that if you have a horse that's like 10 to 1 and they finish in the top 2, that your Exacta there is going to have paid out well, right? It's going to be worth it. Then it doesn't really matter even if the favorite were to hit when you go all there, right? But if for some reason you are to get the bomb in this particular race, like if it were to come Elite Power over Dr. Chevelle, it might not really pay out all that much, right? It may not be worth our investment all that much. I would play that exact type of wager when I liked a horse that would be maybe 10-1 or above. Good question.
Speaking of Exactas, you already gave out your best Exacta, but what is the horse? We talked pick 5s. What is the horse I need to play in my pick 5? What is the horse, the late pick 5? This is the horse you have to have it in your ticket.
It's right before the one that we were just talking about. So we were talking about race number 11. Actually, it's kind of crazy. I got to be careful, Eric, because 2 of my best opinions are like the last 2 Breeders' Cup races. So I can't empty out early on. I got to make sure I still got plenty of ammo left in those 2. I'm going to talk about the number 10 Motorious in race number 10. Motorious is in the turf sprint where they go 5 furlongs. They will be flying early. Some of the fastest horses you'll see really in the world, like legitimate sprinters. And Motorious is going to drop back. He's going to make one late run. He's been prepping for this and priming for this. This has been the goal for him all year long. He just needs to stay out of a little bit of traffic. Make sure you have Motorious in your pick 5s. Build around him. If he is anything above 7-2, I think that's fair value on Motorious.
Now, we're to the classic, the big daddy of them all. What is your bet in the classic?
Now, keep in mind, this year they've actually changed the classic is race number 9 because of like TV. And they actually have 2 races that run after the classic. Sort of weird. The sprint and the turf sprint. Arcangelo is out of the classic. There's been some kind of bad energy this week too. A couple horses had to scratch. One horse passed away. Very, very sad news. Another horse got hurt in a workout and then passed away. So there have been just some really bad hits. It wasn't necessarily anything to do with the track, just sort of weird, different things. And the classic has taken quite a hit as well. Some of the quality from this race is out. I'm looking at this race more and more, and Eric, I'm going to tell you about a horse that I would have said a couple months ago, there's no way I would have picked this horse to win the classic. I just don't think it's that strong of a normal Breeders' Cup Classic. I think Zandon, the number 2 in here, has a legitimate shot. He's very honest. He always shows up and runs well, but he'd been the type of horse for 10 races in a row he had not won. Second, third, over and over. He finally put it all together. And a lot of times that is what is needed. It's sort of like that confidence builder to just kind of remind yourself what you're supposed to do. I think Zandon is catching a really good field. Like there just aren't any horses in here that I'm not scared of for him. I think he's going to be a great price. Frankie Dettori, one of the best riders in the world, he was supposed to retire at the end of this year, but he has been doing so well. He's not going to retire, and he's going to move from Europe, and he's going to race here in the U.S., in Southern California to start the year because he wants to see if he can find a horse that will take him to the Kentucky Derby. So I think it would be pretty cool too if Frankie Dettori were to win the Breeders' Cup Classic he was supposed to have retired, all this pomp and circumstance. It's kind of narrative-y. He's going to give Zandon a nice aggressive ride. What I mean by aggressive, Zandon won't be on the front, but he will be sitting in a good spot, saving ground on the rail. Zandon in the mix for me. There's 3 horses in the classic that if I'm playing the pick 5, I'm using these 3. Zandon, the number 8, Ushiba Tesoro. This is the Japanese horse. This horse won the Dubai World Cup earlier this year. He might just be tons better than this group. He honestly might. And he is such a wild card X factor. I have to include him because he has some incredible races recently. He has won his last 6 races in a row, and he has been a monster in all of those races, like not even tested. So the 8, I actually feel like he's the horse to beat. My final one, Eric, is the 11, Bright Future. This is an up-and-coming horse. He's peaking. I think he can sit very close in here. and sit third or fourth. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this race and hope that Arabian Night and Saudi Crown both end up putting pressure on each other early, and that it sets up for horses to come from off the pace. So the 3 for me, to use all exotics in the classic. And if you want to play any pick 4s, pick 5s, or any types, I'm using the 2, 8, and 11. And I actually have them in order as my top 3, 2, 8, 11.
I like it. Now, one of the favorite things I like to do when you're on is bring up these head-to-heads. Got to use Bovada, Bet Online. Dave, you're tanking. You don't have anything up. Bookmaker doesn't have anything up. So let's bring these up. First one, we're looking at Bright Future plus 120, Arabian Night minus 160. Any thought there?
Man, yeah, I mean, I definitely like Bright Future a little bit in that one. The thing is, I like Bright Future. I think it's a tad short on value for Bright Future, to be honest. At plus 120, I might want a little more than that, but I would lean Bright Future versus Arabian Night on that one for sure.
Next one, the aforementioned Zandon against Proxy. Zandon minus 160, Proxy plus 120.
See, like in this situation, Zandon is going to be a fair price on the board to bet. So I wouldn't turn him into this type of a favorite against Proxy or probably Derma Sotogake either. Like, I think with Zandon, I would prefer playing Zandon just to win. I'd take White Abario in the next one straight up against Arabian Night.
And I'm going to tell you this. Breaking news. Deontay Johnson finally scored a goddamn touchdown.
Oh!
Deontay Johnson finally scored
a year and a half.
Damn touchdown.
A year and a half. That's great.
Now we are going to.
So I do like Abario over Arabian Night there at basically even.
Okay.
I would take a White Abario in the head-to-head.
Next one, Saudi King. Any value on Saudi King plus 120 over White Abario?
That one I would stay away from. I mean, I would prefer White Abario, but I don't think you need to lay 160 there.
Oh my God. I'll just call
White
this
Abario
versus White Abario minus 140 against.
Yeah, I mean,
Ushba.
I would place Ushba Tesoro at even money there.
Ushba Pazora.
Yeah, and I would.
Next one.
I'd stay away from that one. I mean, I prefer if people are out there and they like to play a lot of these matchups and you just put a few bucks on each one of them, I'd go miss the cut. It wouldn't be the one that I would tell you to bet, but if you were leaning one way or the other, I'd lean miss the cut there at plus.
Next one, Derma against Proxy.
I actually like this one too. I think you take Proxy because Derma Sotogake has not run a race since the Kentucky Derby, and we don't even really know how good this horse is. So he hasn't run in a long time. He's kind of quirky. Proxy is like solid. Like he's pretty honest, and you know that he will come running. He might be third or fourth in here. Like Derma Sotogake could be last by many lengths. I don't think that'll be the case with Proxy. I would prefer Proxy. Honestly, that might be my favorite one so far, just because of like it might be safe. Like Proxy's just like consistency versus a total wild card like Derma Sotogake.
Saudi Crown against Arabian King. Saudi Crown.
I'd stay away. These are the two speed horses, so I'd stay away from them. I mean, Arabian Night's like the better horse, but
Saudi Crown and Ushba.
I would probably stay away from that one. I actually like the next one though, Clapton a little bit. Clapton over Senor Buscador. Clapton's actually been in pretty good form recently, and Senor Buscador is just a little too deep of a closer. And so I think I could see Clapton getting a better trip in this race, and Clapton's at plus 115. So yeah, that would be one of the ones I like a little more.
Bright Future plus 110 against USPA.
Gosh. I have these two in my top 3, so I probably wouldn't necessarily play them against each other in that sense, but yeah, I probably would stay away from that one. I'd probably want a little bit more on Bright Future than the plus 110. Absolutely plus money on USPA. That one's my favorite right there. That's the best one we've got so far. If you can find plus money against Arabian Night on USPA Tesoro, because I wouldn't be surprised if USPA Tesoro is the favorite in the race. When they go off, when they go off, like if USPA Tesoro is like 5-2 or like close to 2-1, and Arabian Nights like 5-2. So yeah, that of by far, yeah, I like that one the best.
And the last one, Senior against Dreamlike.
Yeah, I'd probably stay away from there. I mean, I'd prefer Senior, but I wouldn't want to lay 140 with him.
Sometimes, like, so you mentioned in the Classic, the horses you like were the 2-8-11.
Yep.
Now, so right now I'm looking at this, the 2-8 here plays plus 275. Do you think we'll get a better price than a plus 275 come race day?
So that's 2 chances, I think. So that's your 2 chances to win, right?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, 2 chances. So like right here, like, so either one.
Yeah, we take that right now, because USPA might be less than that himself.
And then I'm looking at 11. Where are we at? Plus 450.
Yeah, see, I would that Zandon and USPA, because
you like that a lot.
Well, because if USPA Tesoro is 5-2, you're on race day, we've already locked in more than 5-2, and we get another horse.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that could be, because there's a possibility that this horse gets bet quite a bit. So yeah, that is what I like that one a lot. That plus 275, Zandon, USPA Tesoro, one of those two to win the Classic at plus 275. Sure.
I like that one. I like that one too. I'm gonna put that one in after we finish this. Gino, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Come on and talk some Breeders' Cup. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media, where they can find your podcast, where you break down all these races and all that good stuff?
Yeah, just posted a couple of videos on social media. If you follow me on Twitter, it's me, Gino B, or YouTube or Facebook, any of those places. I always have them live stream there. And then my podcast is That's What G Said Podcast. You can get that anywhere you download your podcasts. And we have Friday Breeders' Cup races preview. Barry Spears joined me to talk about all the Saturday Breeders' Cup races, and we preview those. And I will be out at the track on Friday and Saturday, trying to post some things here and there. I'll also be doing some stuff on the Daily Racing Form account, so you can follow along over there if you need some help or you just want to stay informed. And I got to give you a big shout out and a big thank you, because over the last week and a half, I've been kind of crazy, and you made sure to take care of all of our shows. You have handled NFL Betting Blitz. You've handled the Winning Ticket. You've handled a bunch of things, and they've taken them off of my plate and made life a lot easier for me. So thank you so much for handling biz for me, buddy. And let's crush it this weekend.
Not a problem, man. Anytime. But sadly, with the NFL Blitz, gonna put something more on your table, because something we started doing it last week, and it got a lot of positive feedback. A round robin parlay of some sort.
Okay.
So Chase, who was on last week, he did a round robin first touchdown for a team parlay. He hit 2 out of 4. I had 4 player props I liked, so I skewed them up a little bit so I got plus 150 or higher. We hit 3 out of 4. So the new thing on the show is we end the
round robin
parlay. Each have to have 4, and it has to be plus odds on the on all 4 legs. So I mean, like, you can't have one leg be minus 130. So all of them
all of them have to be plus money. And after these next couple days of horse racing, next week, I'll be able to kind of catch myself up to a lot of the things that I missed. And then, we'll be able to start some round robin. You're going to have, is Chase going to join you again this weekend?
He's going to come back on again. So
awesome.
Chase
Awesome. Good stuff.
And
awesome.
We'll be there Saturday morning at 10.
Sunday morning at 11 Eastern.
Sorry. Sunday morning at 11 Eastern, we'll be there.
Well, because you're in the Central, so I know for you it's a little different too. So
I guess a little skewed, but thanks for coming on, man. Let's
anytime, brother.
And we'll talk soon, dude.
Good luck, everyone.